The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines, the path not taken and the forgotten angle. Listen to the stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to the journey within you. And again, I have a sweet lady here with me that I got to meet over social media, where there's a group of podcasters that come together and we start kind of interacting, saying, "Hey, I want to be on your podcast." And so we did a pre-call, and I was just, I was intrigued because I love coaches first. And then I love that you do this type of coaching because right away I started thinking some friends, oh, they need her. So I want to introduce Lilli. She has her own podcast, and she also is a coach for dating. And so, Lilli, I want you to kind of dive into that for us and just take us through your journey and how this led you to this platform.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Laura. I love conversations. I also love conversations about love. And people call me crazy because I love conversations about dating. Whenever, I say I'm a dating coach for finding love, people are like, oh, that's brave. That's
Yeah.
brave of you. Because there's this perception out there that dating is the wild, wild west. It's really hard and it sucks. And one of the things I'll say right off the bat is my reframe of that is that it's not that dating sucks, it's that your experience with dating sucks. So
Right.
the question is, how do we change your experience?
Mm,
And the experience, and we can get into this however the conversation flows, is amazing, but our experience, if any of the listeners are at all like me, on the inside of me was very difficult. Overthinking thoughts, behaviors that really were not in my highest good.
mm.
And all of that comes from something rooted inside of us, of something that happened to us in the past. So that's what I do. And why I'm here today, the purpose I think that God brought me here today was to, we talked about this earlier, Laura, is to help women through this idea of, I used to tell myself I'm bad at relationships. I would tell
Mm.
people that and I would joke
Mm-hmm.
about it. I would say
Yeah.
I'm bad at relationships, and I believed it. And
Right.
my
Well, what we tell
relationship,
ourselves is what we believe. I mean, that's just
exactly.
a fact.
Exactly. And my failed relationships definitely were not healthy.
Right.
Relationships after relationships, the patterns that I was seeing. So one of my goals with this work that I do is to help women through this different dating process so that they can find the true love, the healthy love, the spiritual love that they really want and they
Mm,
desire.
mm,
And it all follows my journey of healing inside of myself. And so I grew up in a household where a healthy spiritual relationship was definitely not modeled to me.
mhm,
Um, the modeling that I saw was more of this submissive dominant dynamic
mm,
where there was walking on eggshells, there was overt and covert abuse and trauma. And I was subjected to, some things that happened to me in the past, which is another kind of lens through which I looked at relationships in life.
mhm.
And then going up, through relationships where I was definitely self-sacrificing and self-abandoning myself. I didn't really know it at the time, but that is all that I knew. That's all I
Right,
learned.
right.
And then, hitting this kind of pinnacle, one of the biggest awakenings I think that I had in my life was I hit this pinnacle of achievement. I
Mm,
hit this pinnacle. I'm a high achiever to the nth degree, Laura. I know how to get things done. I
yeah.
know how to keep going. I know how
Mm,
to push through. I
mhm.
know how to even get,
Resilient.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know how to get the man even,
yeah,
like I can even get a hot man.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
question about
yeah.
it. But what happened with me was that I had done all of the things in my life. This was my early 30s. I had done all of the things in my life that people, society, my friends, and my family told me that I should do, that I should
Yeah.
get, that I should achieve to be happy. The
Mm,
money, the cars, the job, the banging resume, the banging
mhm.
body, the hot
Yeah.
man. But really what was happening was on the inside, I was dying inside. I
Mm.
was dying spiritually. I was dying mentally, physically, psychologically, all of the things, emotionally. So that was my first big aha moment of, wait a second here.
I
This
should
does
be
not make
happy.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I should be happy. And this doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. And that's when I started to look at different things about healing and about emotional intelligence, about codependency was one of the first things that I
Mm.
learned about. And granted, this was completely different because nothing like this was talked about in my
No.
household. I was basically surviving throughout, the first 3 decades of my life. And so that's when I kind of opened up to a different way, a better way of life, right? And so fast forward to today, one of the reasons that I focus on dating in particular, it's very niche and it's very nuanced, but this is why,
Yes.
is because if anyone is like me who has either grown up with a not a great example of a relationship that they want and or has experienced anything in the past, whether they know it or not, and we can get into that too, and has seen patterns in their relationships, either inside of themselves or
Mm-hmm.
outside of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
a pattern is 3 or more times. The reason that I focus on dating is because most relationship coaches or relationship gurus will focus on communication,
Right.
how to communicate. They'll
Mm-hmm.
focus on what is your love language? What is your
Mm.
love language of your partner? And I
Mm-hmm.
did this, Laura, in the last relationship that I was in. I was the
You crossed
one
all the T's and dotted all the I's,
I
right?
was the
Yeah.
one doing all of the learning, all of the
Mm-hmm.
growing on behalf of the relationship. I was the one learning the love language of myself and my partner to make us more connected and to get
Mm-hmm.
closer. I was the one holding the weight in the relationship. I was the one setting the date nights that never
Mm-hmm.
ended up coming through. People will say, the gurus will say, oh, set a weekly date night and then everything will be okay. Not
Right.
true. So,
Mm-mm.
what I learned through that process was the most important thing in relationships is not love. It is a willingness of both parties to walk the same journey together. And the person that you pick from the very beginning is the most important thing. And if you've
Mm.
had some trauma in your past, if you've had some bad examples in your past, you are likely not picking with your highest good, your highest self.
Right.
You're picking with the parts of you that are actually wounded and need
Mm-hmm.
healing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the rock that I stand on when it comes to dating and relationships, because why not choose from the beginning instead of staying in a relationship for too long, carrying too much of the weight
More trauma.
and trying to make it work? Why
Mm-hmm.
not pick your person from the beginning? And a lot of women are not picking their people with their intuition, with their voice, with their highest good and highest self involved. And so that's when we really get into the deeper level healing work about, well, what's going on with you?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you leading with a wounded part of yourself rather than your highest self? And that's when the healing work really comes in.
Right. And I can see that because I carried something like I think I might have shared with you offline. It was something that happened to me when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not realize until I got freedom from that and a year ago, almost 2 years, how that had impacted my relationships all along. How I was choosing the man, how I was choosing to be in a relationship because of what I had buried so deep. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I thought I was to be treated. But it
Mm-hmm.
was from the past hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So releasing that, and of course, I found a great man and I'm in a great relationship, 27 years, but I had to go through some hard bumps before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mentioned to you too, without the healing, I have a certain friend that keeps choosing the same pattern over and over. I'm like, oh my gosh, you so deserve more. But you cannot get past that until you do some healing
Yes.
within.
Yes.
And so tell us about this technique that you're using with your clients.
Yeah. I think the hardest truth for people to come to, especially women that are really smart, that have really done a lot, on the
Hmm.
outside of themselves and maybe like have dabbled into personal development work or even had
Hmm.
therapy or either some kind of coaching. I think the hardest thing for us to look at is that a basic law of manifestation is that what's happening outside of you is a reflection of what's happening inside of you.
Mhm.
And it is within it's in my bones now when I see that myself. But I think it's within our courage and maybe choosing with the part of us that wants better for ourselves to do that healing work so that what's happening on the inside of us can be reflected in the best way possible of what's happening outside of us. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Oh,
So
definitely.
yeah, so my approach, and this is different from your friends that you're talking to, dating problems or relationship problems with. This is different from your family because, you know, it's very hard to be supported sometimes in the way that we need to be supported by our friends and our family
Right.
because either we're seeing the same pattern happen again and again, and there's shame involved with that because we think that
Mhm.
we should be better, right? So
Mhm.
we hide it
Yeah.
or we don't talk fully about what's happening inside of us. So what I do is an inside out approach. And a lot of even therapy, friends, family, other coaches, if you're talking about dating coaches, will look from an outside in perspective.
Mm.
Let's go fix your dating profile. Let's
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 change that picture.
yeah, let's write out a list of characteristics that you want in a partner.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be what's gonna attract, your dream partner. Let's just go have fun and see how it goes. That was
Mm.
not good for me. No, ma'am, that did not end well for me. Right. So
Oh.
it's a very outside in approach.
Mm.
And if we do not get alignment inside of ourselves with all the way that I know that I'm in alignment in my life is most of the time I'm human, I make mistakes, but
Right.
most of
Right.
the time, my actions, so my behaviors, my thoughts, my beliefs, and my emotions all line up with what it is that I want.
Mhm.
And a lot of women will say that they want one thing, but their actions or even
Show
their
a
their
whole nother
beliefs
thing. Right.
exactly. So that
Yeah.
is where you know that you have some healing work to do inside
Mm.
of yourself if there isn't alignment in truthfully, right? Really truthfully and authentically inside of yourself, if there's non-alignment, then you know that you have some work to do.
Mhm. Mhm. I know I saw that in myself, and when I did finally divorce from my marriage, in my 30s, and that
Mhm.
seems to be a hard age for women because you
Mhm.
should pretty much be stable and with your life and where you're going. And here I am disrupting it and changing everything. But again, I didn't know who I was anymore. I had lost myself completely in that marriage because of all the things that happened and living in. And it took 2 years of
Mhm.
working through that
Mhm.
and getting myself back to someone I basically remembered who I was, but the alignment, that was where I was going is, the alignment. Well, we talk about that a lot too. And knowing your physical, your spiritual, your financial even plays into
Mhm.
that. And,
Mhm.
all the things emotionally. And you have to have, if one thing's off, it starts throwing everything else off. And you
Mhm.
can't keep covering it up, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, but it's okay. I
Mhm.
can adjust. He's good to me. Is it true? Is it really true in what God intended for you in your relationship?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of work that has to be done within yourself,
Mhm.
inside.
Yeah.
I'm a gut health company and I love my gut health. And if we don't fix the gut, right, things are off.
Yeah.
So you
Same
have to
thing.
start from the inside to
Mhm.
help get what you want brought into you.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful when it happens. Let me tell you,
Mhm. It
I'm
really is.
saying
It's yeah.
27 years and it's been the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And when I was a person thinking it never could happen. Because
Mhm.
when you're in that age frame and have children, you're like, I'll never find true love.
Mhm.
And again, they start just accepting
Mhm.
another relationship
Yeah.
without the
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Exactly. I work with women anywhere between like 30s and up to
Mhm.
67 has been
Yeah.
the most aged person that I've worked with before. And all it really takes is the willingness to choose with the part that wants something different for you. It's very hard because we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
We can't we
Exactly.
can't we can't experience what we haven't experienced,
Mm-mm.
right? So,
Mm-mm.
kind of using affirmations or trying to meditate your anxiety away, or these different tools that are really, I call it tool peddling, because
Yeah.
really tools, I think, really are, they're great and they're band-aids, right?
They shouldn't be your total package.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I love some of the things too that you mentioned,
Hmm.
and I've used them, and I still do some of the things, but it's not all of me and not all my resources. I
Hmm.
don't depend on that affirmation to make my way.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's just like self-help.
yeah,
Is it true healing? No.
yeah. Yeah, and what you say is so true. Again, like, we can't experience what we've never experienced before. And so what the healing work really does, when you really get to the root cause of why, you've maybe written out a letter to your soulmate. I don't know if your friend has done this, but why she's written a letter to her soulmate, but what she's seeing and what keeps showing up for her is completely opposite, right?
Mm,
So the
mm,
question isn't what am I doing on the outside that's wrong? It's like, what needs healing inside of me?
inside.
Yeah.
Hmm. hmm So, what is the method that you use in this quiz? I saw there's a quiz to take
Yeah.
that you have them take. And what is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I invite anyone that's listening, whether they're
And
dating.
we'll have it attached to the show notes so you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's called the Feminine Dating Archetype Quiz. I invite anyone that's in a relationship even, and you're kind of seeing things inside of yourself that you'd like to improve on,
Mm,
or even in the dynamic that you're seeing. Or if you're dating and you're single, the Feminine Dating Archetype Quiz, it's at datingarchetype.com. It's a little background about how this happened.
yeah.
Um, I know you're faith-based, Laura, and it has a little bit to do with that because, like I mentioned before, one of the things that I really pride myself on is that I have walked this journey. I have walked this path. And in hindsight, what I realized was I went through these four different phases
Hmm.
in calling in epic, magnetic, healthy spiritual love that I'm in right now. And I saw the same pattern start to happen in my clients as well. And then, I'm not like, to be very clear, I'm a coach, I'm not a therapist.
Right.
And I have a lot of therapeutic ideas, theories, modalities that I have used and have been used on me in my healing. And so I started to see these different therapeutic modalities kind of weave their way through the experience of these different phases of
Hmm.
what I went through to get to epic love. And all of a sudden, one day, God was like, Lily, this is something. This is something. And so there was a directive for me to look at these and kind of parse them out and show women that if they are having problems, if they can't seem to get the relationship thing right, and everything else in their life is going right, and they're seeing patterns that they don't like inside of themselves and with other people in their
Hmm.
dating life, they're not alone, right?
Mm,
And you can actually move from phase to phase to phase. And that's why it's called an archetype, is because sometimes people do get stuck in that pattern and they never
mm,
get out. They
right.
get unhappy, in this pattern. That's what I don't
Hmm.
want. I do not want.
Right.
So that's where,
No.
yeah, that's where all of this came from. Do you want me to go through them?
Yeah. If you don't
Yeah.
mind, if you have
Okay.
time to go through,
Yeah.
or a couple of
Yeah.
them anyway.
Yeah,
Hmm.
totally. The first one is the chill woman. And the chill woman is really, really familiar with overwhelm, anxiety, and overthinking in the dating process.
Hmm.
This tends to flare up 24, 48, 72 hours after not hearing from someone. The chill woman will attract men who just want to hang out and chill, but they don't have really any direction.
Any type of connection.
Yeah, and she will normally say yes to this because she really craves that connection.
Mm,
She really craves, that validation and attention.
mm,
Sadly, the chill woman tends to get ghosted a lot, and she doesn't
mm,
understand why, because she's really, really good at communicating. But for some reason, the men that she's attracting just tends to drop off the map, and she's just down this overthinking spiral for
oh,
a long time.
yeah.
Um, what the chill woman really, really wants to know is that people are going to be there for her and not leave.
Mm.
And her work, if anyone identifies with the chill woman, her work is a few fold. Her work is about boundaries inside of herself and outside of herself, her energy and her time in particular, sometimes like how she spends her money, like there's money
Mm-hmm.
problems in there as
Mm-hmm.
well. Also, her work is to see and hear and understand herself inside of herself, parts of herself that she has pushed away. She doesn't really know that they're there. The chill woman, it's really interesting because the chill woman in past relationships has complained of not being seen and heard. So,
Yeah. That
so
is so
her,
validating.
I
Yeah.
know, I know.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
So her work is to see and hear and understand parts of herself inside of herself so that she
Mm-hmm.
can start to form her needs and wants and desires, which she has never really had in the past because they've been shut down
Right.
in various things that have happened to her throughout her life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I could see that. So that's one. Is there more?
Yeah, that's the chill woman. The fortress woman is next. That's kind of the next phase. The fortress woman has a wall the size of the Great Wall of China around her heart.
I know several people like
Yes,
that.
yes. So she has definitely been hurt by love before.
Mm.
And the only way to defend her heart is just to not let people in, like let them in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They're on the surface
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
This is funny. And sometimes this is very, very hard for fortress women to hear because they're, and a lot of people, especially when you get into older, like multiple divorces or multiple
Mm-hmm.
failed relationships, women will be like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine alone. I agree. I know that you are fine alone. And I also know that you can also have a beautiful relationship and not sacrifice yourself and abandon yourself like you've had to do in the past.
Exactly.
So, this is funny, when I was the fortress woman, my vision board was all about having a beautiful house and, beautiful land with just a ton of animals,
Yeah.
all animals and no partner, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the fortress woman is very similar. And, she wants to live in the woods alone. Again,
Mm-hmm.
fine. I know you can. I know you're hyper independent. And I also know that you can heal enough so that you
That
can,
you can allow.
yep,
Mm.
the thing for the fortress woman to work on is the vulnerability inside of herself. So
Mm.
what, again, like what parts of her are scared to be vulnerable and what does that mean to them in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Also self-trust. So
Mm.
learning how to listen to her intuition because she hasn't really been in touch with it because of the stuff that has happened to her in the
Right.
past.
And we second guess ourselves so much. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the work for her is to learn how to trust herself in choosing the right people to let in her heart because she
Mm.
hasn't been able to do that very well in the
Mm.
past.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah.
That's so good too. How many steps are there? How many
Yeah.
are
The
there?
last two are the last one is the goddess woman. The goddess woman has done a lot of therapy and personal development work, but there's a
Sounds
big,
like that.
yeah, there's a big gap for her about what she thinks that she wants and what's showing up for her. Like
Mm.
she has the list of characteristics. She has the dream letter that she wrote to her partner. She's intimidating, or she feels like she's intimidating to the men that she's attracting, or she gets this like push pull energy happening
Mm.
in dating. A
Mm.
lot of times with the goddess, her outward perception of what's happening in her life, like with her
Mhm.
friends on
Mhm.
Instagram, on TikTok, is very, very different. It's glamorized and what's very, very different than what's happening on the inside of her, especially
Mm.
with dating. So the
Mm.
goddess woman, her points of healing are about her perfectionism inside of herself. So she is very, very hard on herself. Her perfectionist parts are really, really strong. And also, she holds on to a lot of control um,
Mm.
outside and inside of herself because that's the way she's been able
That's
to
what
get.
she's operated. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the way that
Mhm.
she's been able to get so far for so long, especially after the hard stuff that she's been through.
Mhm.
The last one is the magnetic woman, and the magnetic woman is the woman that I aspire to be, that my clients aspire to be most of the time. This is not a perfect kind of like, oh, I'm the magnetic woman
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, the magnetic woman is very compassionate of herself when she is
Mm.
imperfect. Um, she honors herself by sticking to and setting dating boundaries, for example. She knows how to receive love deeply. And that alignment that we talked about, Laura, like her thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, and her emotions all line up with her highest
Uh,
good and her highest self. So
yeah.
you know when you've hit magnetic woman status, when you are able to clearly express your needs and wants and desires, your actions back them up, like who you invite in your life and who you
Mm,
don't. And your worth and your magnetism, your self-love have moved from I know that I should be more loving of myself to I am more loving
I
of myself.
am. Yeah. Yeah. And I just had a thought when you were talking about that. I'm in a great relationship, but I think those are practices I could still use to see where I'm at in my life at
Mhm,
62,
mhm.
and I still feel I'm magnetic. I feel part of that, that hit, that resonated.
Yeah, true.
But also even with friendships, not necessarily dating. That's a
Mhm.
great way to go through and look at, how you're attracting people in your life that way, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, a pattern is a pattern is a pattern,
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah.
Like for me, my pattern of I was definitely more of again the chill woman, but then I lived in fortress woman mode for a good 2 years or 3
Mm.
years.
Yeah, that's wondering how
Um
long it takes to work
yeah,
through something like that.
I mean it depends. It depends. The move from the hardest move I think honestly is the move from the goddess woman to the magnetic woman
Mm,
because it requires a certain level of dedication to
mm.
wanting something better.
Inside work. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a certain level of like, okay, I've done my healing before. Am I willing to go just a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not surface healing,
Mhm.
deeper, because that's
Mhm.
what mine was, core,
Mhm.
down,
More
so deep.
definitely.
And I
Definitely.
was like, "Oh, that was scary that how it came out because I had forgotten, but I hadn't." You do, but you
Oh yeah.
hadn't.
Oh yeah.
Because you
It's
live
there.
life. We're good at that. We're good
Mhm.
at going forward and living life like nothing's ever happened. So they
Mhm.
take the quiz, and then your coaching then is to help them walk through each of these steps. Is that what you do?
Yeah, pretty much. I do, as we've been talking about healing a lot. We really get to the root cause
Right.
to heal for good. Even though if you've been in therapy, almost all of my clients have been in therapy for almost
Mhm.
decades. And I love therapy. I go to therapy but for whatever reason, I don't know, the pattern that I'm seeing is that for whatever reason, the level of depth
They don't go
that
there.
yeah, I don't know why, I'm not saying that therapy is bad because I do think therapy is great.
Right.
Therapy, in my opinion, can get you to a certain level of getting out of survival mode, but
Mhm.
then the fulfillment, the self-actualization, the actual behaviors and actions and the beliefs that really need to change, they don't really get to that point, at least from what I've seen. Again, I'm open to a conversation about that, but from what
No,
I've seen for
I
myself
see
and my
that because
clients, yeah.
I see what I found with my granddaughter because we sent her to therapy,
Mm,
and she said, "Grandma, I don't want to go anywhere. We just talk about the same thing, same thing, same thing." She didn't feel like she was moving forward. She
mhm,
admitted that, and
mhm,
again, we're not knocking therapists; they
mhm,
are great.
mhm,
So I took her out.
mhm,
And we did start getting some more one-on-one type talking and putting her in front of people that I knew would be working with her
mhm.
past what she needed to get past
Yeah.
and not just stay in that same conversation. And I can see how that hurts.
Mhm,
You're not growing, you're not healing from it.
mhm.
And so, same thing I tell a lot of my clients with the health and wellness,
Exactly.
prescriptions um, are good for some things. But
Yes.
again, you need to stand and look at what you're taking and are there alternatives to help you feel better? Or do you
Mhm,
want to stay on this and, battle the illness, So,
mhm.
yeah, the deep healing has to happen from
Yeah,
inside out. And women,
absolutely.
when they get to that point and find that epic love, I'm
Mhm.
sure you celebrate with them. I know that has to be such a great feeling for to see the change and them open up and find their true love,
Yeah, it
the
is.
compatible relationship.
It is. I think the biggest thing is the change that they see inside of themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the biggest thing is the transformation of, like you said, through your journey, relearning who you are,
Yeah.
what's important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
It was an
and
eye opener for me.
it's wild. And again, it's very hard to hear because it's confronting,
Yes.
right? It's very
Yeah.
confronting because for so long we have been celebrated for being people other than we are.
Yeah. Oh, that's so right. That's so true. Um, and now I'm celebrated for who I am.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
what we all want.
Yes.
You know, that
To be
unconditional love.
seen, be heard. Yeah.
Yes, be seen, be heard, be understood, be loved for who we are rather than what we do. That's like, that is what unconditional love is. And the hard thing again is that we cannot experience what we haven't experienced before. We
Exactly.
never had that. We didn't have it in our parents. We didn't
No.
have it even probably in the friend group that you had around you. But when you start to alchemize and transmute things that's happening again inside of you, your outside will change. That is something that I can absolutely guarantee,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? But it does take that work of healing the root cause, which is what I do, and you probably do that in your business as well in
Yes.
a different
Yes.
way, healing the root cause of what is really, really happening inside of you.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. And if people will just be open to that and dedicated to it and want to, we can't force it on them.
Hmm.
We have to just
Hmm.
show them the steps and let them take lead and see if that's what they're going to do with it. But
Absolutely.
oh, Lily, this is so exciting. I love this atmosphere of it all. I know people I want to connect with you, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
they will listen and follow. I'll have everything in the show notes so they can
Hmm.
connect with you. Something I like to do at the end, I have a stack of cards here that are scriptures, and I
Hmm.
shuffle them. And so whatever comes on top is meant for us today.
Perfect.
And it's just kind of cool to see what's going to be spoken.
Hmm.
And then while we're doing that, be thinking about what is something you like to collect. And so we'll come back to that in just a second.
Select.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So this says, that is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, and hardships, and perceptions, and in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
Mhm.
2 Corinthians 12:10. And so I love that. I mean,
Good.
showing even in our weakness and our things that we go through, we're made strong through him.
Mhm.
And that women, don't give up. Don't think it can never happen for you. I mean,
Mhm.
I stayed 2 years divorced, met a man, incredible man. And I
Mhm.
lived in fear in the first, few months of that marriage, thinking I had to conform to a different person and do things differently. And
Mhm.
when I realized he gave me the freedom also, be who you are.
Yes.
Don't hold back.
It's the
Um,
best feeling ever.
yeah, so be able to
It's
let go of all that and have that epic love. I love that word, epic. I'm going to use it all the time now because I
yeah.
have it. I can
Uh-huh.
celebrate 27 years this, March, and I just love it. So tell me something you love to collect.
Ooh, that's a great question. The, the the funny part of me actually comes up because right now I'm collecting kittens.
That is funny because I can see my mom. We have multiple kittens.
Yeah, the kitten distribution system is on full
Oh,
display. So we rescued another kitten from the streets um
oh,
3 weeks ago. So that's what the first thing
yeah.
that came
Yeah.
up in my
Yeah.
mind.
Well, hey, you know what? That's real right now, right? In your life. And
Yeah,
that's what's
well, I mean,
happening.
I was telling my partner, who is the most amazing man also that I've ever met in my life. Um, if this was how we're supposed to be of service, we're just going to be of service. So can't say
Yeah,
no.
yeah. I've been up many nights feeding kittens bottles, just help. When they were overloaded, I was like, "Yeah, bring them on," and I
Yeah,
sit and feed them all night long and all day.
yeah,
But if you can help, you help, right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
then get them fixed and find a good home, or they have a home.
Yeah,
That's what we did
exactly.
we had a farm one time, so I had plenty
Um,
of animals, know about the animals, and it was
nice.
always, you have a farm, you wind up rescuing because you just feel bad and you're like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
need to take them in."
Hmm.
But Lily, thank you for coming on my podcast today. I appreciate you so much and the work that you're doing for women out there.
Thank you, Laura. I really appreciate you as well.
Thank you for joining my podcast today. We all have a story to share. Each story has purpose and makes an impact to you, the listener, creating a journey with passion and purpose. The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Please share with others and subscribe below.